the Second Barons' War and Simon de Montfort. So the way to remember this one really is, it's absolutely history repeating itself. So if you've watched the podcast on the First Barons' War, you'll realise that Henry III, the 9-year-old son of King John, has now taken the throne of England. But what happened is he read the Magna Carta when he was 9, obviously signs it, but when he gets older and he actually reads it and sees how restricting it is in terms of his power, he's not very happy. So he does exactly what his father did. He refuses to follow the Magna Carta. So this is really just history repeating itself. And the barons mustn't be able to believe what's happening, okay, because I had all the problems with King John and it's happening again. So what was Henry III like as a ruler then? Well, to be honest, he was pretty corrupt, a bit like his father. He spent a lot of money on his friends and alcohol and entertainment and things like that, and on the Pope's holy wars, because he was absolutely desperate, that his soul would go to heaven. So all this money really is wasted, and the English people aren't, happy with that. He also is somebody who is absolutely adamant that if any of his friends or favourites has done something wrong, then the sheriffs and the justices of the peace in those days would just end up just letting these people off. So people thought that was really unfair. So there was nothing like a fair trial. It was all just completely fixed. Before anything could happen to them, Henry III would make sure that they got off. And in terms of as well, why the Second Barons' War happens, the barons are unhappy because he should be following, ultimately, the Magna Carta, and he is refusing to do this. And then in terms of the next thing that happens, Simon de Montfort becomes his brother-in-law. So Simon de Montfort was a French baron. And people in England are a little bit sick and tired of a lot of the French people obviously doing quite well in England and things. And, a lot of the English people would like it to be just more about English people living in England. Now, Simon de Montfort, don't get me wrong, they don't really have much of a problem with him. He marries the sister of Henry III, who is Eleanor, okay, and he expects to receive a dowry for marrying her, but Henry III never pays him that. And also, they start to have a bit of an up and down relationship. So to start with, they seem to get on really well. But another reason they fall out is because there's problems in France. So Henry III sends Simon de Montfort over to sort these things out. And that's pretty hard in trying to fight his homeland. That's not going to be easy. And also, Simon de Montfort isn't happy because he got told to sort out problems in Gascony, and then Henry III says, oh, this is ridiculous, you were so high-handed in Gascony. Who do you think you are? You're not the King of England. So he puts him on trial twice in front of the other barons. Now that's really embarrassing for Simon de Montfort, because obviously he's going on trial in front of his peers there. So the relationship breaks down, and really it's pretty much irreparable. So Simon de Montfort and the other barons get their heads together and decide if he's not going to follow the Magna Carta, then they're going to put something together called the Provisions of Oxford. So the Provisions of Oxford is similar to the Magna Carta, but what it sets down is this time is 15 barons will be able to control what the king is doing, okay? And obviously they have to be elected by a council of 24. Also, it's things like, that foreigners should be expelled from the country, so they shouldn't have as much say in the running of the country. So that's obviously going to be significant. It's also that there should be, fair trials in terms of the sheriffs and things, and it shouldn't just be that the king's favourites, get off with things that they've done. So there's really, again, another list of rules that the king is meant to be following. So they make him sign the Provisions of Oxford, and yet, you guessed it, he doesn't follow any of those either. So it all comes to a head at the Battle of Lewes, which is known as the Second Barons' War. So Simon de Montfort and the barons manage to defeat Henry III and his son in battle, and then they take those two prisoner. So what happens is they don't obviously have them executed or anything, they keep them prisoner, and Simon de Montfort then rules England as a republic for a year. So he only rules for 1 year. And he doesn't call himself king or anything, but what he does is he decides to rule with Parliament. And he's the first person that wants commoners in Parliament as well, so he wants to hear from the everyday people. So he's sometimes known as a saint because of this, and also a father of democracy or father of Parliament, because he's the person who puts this in place, and Parliament plays a significant role. But the barons soon get tired of this, because this takes power away from them, so they're absolutely fuming over this. So what happens is they accidentally let Edward, the son of Henry III, free, and then he goes and raises an army to fight Simon de Montfort again. And sadly, after the year that he has in charge, what ends up happening is there is another war between the barons, obviously, you know, and now who are supporting Edward, and Simon de Montfort and his supporters. And Simon de Montfort is hacked to bits. Absolutely horrendous death for somebody who had actually been known as like the father of democracy and father of parliament. So was his death in vain? Well, absolutely not. Some historians think he was a sinner because when he obviously took over the running of England, he did take quite a few of the lands, but pretty much anybody would have done that, and the sons would have taken some lands as well. But really, he was the father of democracy, and because of him, all the time after that, kings were meant to rule with Parliament. So Henry III, then Edward his son, all had to rule with Parliament after this. And we know what happens when someone doesn't rule with Parliament, when we come to do, obviously, you know, the English Civil War or the English Revolution. So he sets that in stone. And another important thing that obviously he managed to achieve was he showed that it actually could be ruled without a king, because he managed to do that for a year. Now, he went up against a corrupt ruler in Henry III, so he tried to obviously make him see sense, and he still refused Henry III to do, you know, what was asked. Now, he's remembered quite fondly, really, because Leicester University is named de Montfort University after Simon de Montfort. And also, he's appeared on, you know, stamps and things as well. So people do remember him fondly. And whether you think he's a saint or sinner or father of democracy, he certainly was a very, very significant person in terms of English history.